Have you ever wondered if there's like a hidden logic, maybe some unspoken rules behind how we connect, how attraction actually works? Today we're doing a deep dive into exactly that. It's a methodology that pretty boldly calls itself a science of courtship, something known as the mystery method.
Yeah, so our source material for this is excerpts from the book The Mystery Method: How to Get Beautiful Women into Bed. And look, it presents this really highly structured, almost clinical way of looking at human connection, breaking it down into steps, techniques.
Right. And our mission today really is to unpack all of this. It's dense stuff. We want to pull out the core ideas, those nuggets of knowledge, and try to understand the principles it's proposing,
Hmm.
about attraction, about social dynamics. Some of it's pretty surprising.
Yeah.
And just to be clear up front, we're exploring the framework here. We're looking at what the text claims and why. We're not necessarily endorsing these views, okay?
Hmm.
Think of it like we're opening up maybe a controversial but definitely detailed instruction manual for social interaction. Okay, let's get into it then. The material kicks off with a really fundamental, almost stark perspective on human purpose.
Yeah.
What's at the very heart of this philosophy?
Well, what's fascinating right from the start is this core belief they lay out that life's ultimate purpose is survival, period. And right after that, the penultimate purpose is replication. It
Hmm.
basically frames us humans as biological machines driven by these two fundamental directives.
Wow. Okay. So it really strips away a lot of the romantic ideas we usually associate with connection, doesn't it? It even puts a number on it, right? Saying the average American lives just, what, 28,251 days? Kind of stark.
Exactly. And that immediately leads to the question, if our time is so limited and replication is supposedly key, how do you optimize for that? The text suggests two specific disciplines. First, martial arts for survival, basically self-defense, and second, Venusian arts for replication, which in this context means, well, picking up women to start intimate relationships.
Venusian arts. That's quite a term. The source also mentions how humans are like out-of-date models designed for tribal times. How does that connect to modern social life?
Yeah, that's a key idea. If you connect that back, it suggests our emotional wiring, our fears, like the fear of approaching someone new, the cold approach fear, aren't just modern anxieties. They're framed as these hardwired evolutionary leftovers from, ancient tribal social structures. So even if your logical brain knows you're safe, knows laws protect you, that primal fear can still kick in.
Interesting. And how does this whole method tie into basic human needs? I know the source adapts Maslow's hierarchy.
It does. It sort of boils it down to three vital areas: health, wealth, and love meaning relationships. And it argues they're all interconnected. So neglecting one, like love, could actually mess with your mental health, maybe even hurt your ability to build wealth because, seeming together in business often involves projecting relationship stability. And conversely, improving one area, say getting healthier, can directly boost what it calls your replication value, making you seem more attractive.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting for me. The text claims attraction isn't even a conscious choice. It's an automatic response. How on earth does it suggest you can rewire someone's attraction circuitry?
Right, that's a core premise. It states that women are essentially creatures of sentiment, motivated more by emotion than by pure logic. Their attraction circuitry, as this method describes it, is supposedly calibrated to a man's social value, his survival value, much more than just his looks. So the advice is really direct. Don't try to convince her, don't argue logically, because emotions, from this viewpoint, are their own legitimate reasons. You're aiming to trigger those emotional responses, not win a debate.
So it's less about persuasion and more about triggering these like preset emotional buttons. And the method gives a very specific plan for this, right? The M3 model. Can you walk us through the stages?
Absolutely. The M3 model basically defines courtship as this predetermined structure. Three main stages: attract, then build comfort, then seduce. And it really hammers home the sequence. Attraction must come before comfort. And comfort must be established before you even think about seduction. Getting the order wrong is, like, game over, according to this.
Oh, okay. And the source talks about pitfalls, calls them player traps, and of course the famous friendship zone. What are these traps people supposedly fall into?
Yeah, these highlight common mistakes. So, fool's mate is trying to seduce way too early before you've actually built genuine attraction that just makes her feel manipulated, apparently. Then there's disregard of comfort. That's trying to escalate to seduction before enough comfort and trust are there. That just flips the attraction switches off. And this is where the 7-hour rule comes in. The text suggests it takes, on average, somewhere between 4 and 10 hours of total cumulative comfort-building time before a woman is psychologically ready for seduction.
4 to 10 hours, wow. And buyer's remorse. That happens when she feels she went too far too soon and regrets it later. The advice is even to, like, push her away slightly if things heat up too fast,
Oh.
to aim for countless nights instead of just one night of petting. That seems counterintuitive.
It does, but that's the logic presented. It's about pacing and ensuring the emotional foundation is solid before physical escalation to avoid that later regret. And then the friendship zone, that's where you land if you don't clearly signal sexual interest along the way. And if you don't seem comfortable with your own sexuality, you can't jump from friend to lover, basically. Comfort has to be built with that underlying sexual tension present, according to the method.
Right. Okay, and my personal favorite, cat theory. What's this weird analogy supposed to...
Yeah, cat theory. It suggests that if you make yourself too available, too easily acquired, she loses interest. Like a cat ignoring a toy that's just placed right in front of it. The idea is you need to keep validation and your attention just slightly out of reach. It plays on that idea of, the chase, that a little bit of unavailability or challenge keeps things interesting. Predictability is the enemy here.
Okay, let's get into the actual mechanics then. Phase 1, attract. Stage A1 is opening a set. The text brings up the 3-second rule and a 3-minute exception. What are those about?
Okay, the 3-second rule is pretty literal. Approach a woman within 3 seconds of first seeing her. The idea is to be reactionary, spontaneous. It's meant to avoid looking like you spent time nervously working up the courage, which supposedly signals lower value. The 3-minute exception is a caveat. It says you can hold back briefly if you anticipate an immediate interruption like a waitress coming over, external interrupt, or maybe a short queue forming, internal disrupt, right after you open, but only within those first 3.
Got it. So timing and projecting confidence right away.
Yeah.
What about body language? What does it advise there?
Some really specific things, like don't clutch your drink like it's a lifeline, a security blanket. Don't try too hard to look cool or tough. And when you first open a group, just turn your head towards them initially, not your whole body. Turning your whole body apparently looks too eager to rapport-seeking.
Yeah.
Also, concepts like leaning back slightly to convey power and peacocking.
Peacocking.
Yeah, peacocking. Basically wearing something outlandish or attention-grabbing like a crazy hat, bright colors, unusual jewelry, something to make you stand out immediately and spark conversation or at least curiosity before you even say a word.
Okay, so you've opened, you've got attention, now it's A2. Building attraction that seems to heavily involve demonstrations of higher value, or DHVs, and also these things called negs. What are DHVs and how do negs fit in?
Right. DHVs are anything that signals higher, what the text calls survival and replication value, S&R value. So this could be stuff like pre-selection, being seen talking comfortably with other attractive women. It could be subtle hints of wealth, or more commonly, demonstrating social intelligence through good storytelling, humor, leadership qualities. Negs are, well, they're a bit different. They're defined as statements or actions designed to briefly and without insult disqualify oneself from being perceived as a potential suitor.
Well, okay, disqualify oneself. That
Yeah.
sounds backwards. Can you give some examples? What's the actual point?
The stated goal is to knock her off a pedestal, bypass her initial defenses or protection shield, and make her curious because you're not acting like every other guy hitting on her. They're meant to be subtle, maybe playful put-downs, not genuine insults. Examples from the text are things like, is that a hairpiece? Oh, well, it's nice. That style should be called the waffle. Or maybe something more direct like, I don't think we get along. And there's the throw-and-go rule. You deliver the neg quickly, like tossing a pebble, and immediately turn your attention elsewhere. Don't wait for a reaction. The psychology, as presented, is that typical compliments often signal neediness. A neg is supposed to disrupt that, signal you're not trying to win her approval, which paradoxically might increase your perceived value and pique her interest.
Interesting. Okay, the text also lists IOIs, indicators of interest, and IODs, indicators of disinterest. How do these help navigate the interaction?
Yeah, they're basically feedback mechanisms. IOIs are signs she's interested. She restarts the conversation if it lags, laughs easily, touches your arm, holds eye contact, points out shared interests. Oh, I love that band, too. There are also passive IOIs, like if her friends leave the group but she chooses to stay and talk to you, or if she doesn't pull away when you naturally get a bit closer. IODs are the opposite. Avoiding eye contact, giving one-word answers, turning her body away, checking her phone constantly, or just walking off. The text also warns about fake IOIs, where someone might seem interested just to get something, like a free drink or maybe just to pass the time. Reading these signals helps you calibrate, know whether to push forward, pull back, or change tack.
Makes sense. What about group theory? Approaching the whole group, not just the one person you're interested in.
Right, that's a big one. The strategy is basically to win over the entire group first, especially the friends, often called obstacles. You use DHVs on everyone. You might even playfully neg the target's friends or try to become the center of the group's attention, essentially stealing the spotlight even from the person you're ultimately interested in. The underlying belief here is that women are often attracted to the man who seems to have the highest social value within their current social setting. So the goal is to become that guy, to sort of take over the group. This involves techniques like multi-threading, juggling, say, 3 to 5 different conversation topics almost simultaneously to keep everyone engaged and occupy their conscious minds, making it harder for them to analyze or shut you down.
And if one of those threads isn't working, you just cut it.
Yeah, exactly. Cutting conversational threads. If a topic dies or isn't helpful, you just drop it and start a new one. It's framed as demonstrating a stronger frame, showing leadership in the conversation. There's also the waypoint question. So how do you all know each other? That's highlighted as a really key question early on to quickly figure out the group dynamics.
Okay, so DHVs, negs, group dynamics.
Yeah.
Then you move to A3, male to female interest. How do you finally show you're interested without seeming needy after all that?
The key shift here is to compliment her, but specifically on her personality or maybe a skill, not just her looks. Something like, I can tell you're probably the leader of your friends. I like that.
Yeah.
This is also where you start conveying your own standards and begin screening her. You subtly ask questions that make her qualify herself to you, like, so apart from your looks, what are your 3 best qualities? Or, are you an adventurous person? The idea is this frames you as selective, as high value, which supposedly makes her more invested in winning your approval. It flips the script.
This whole thing sounds so incredibly calculated. What about physical touch? Kino, as they call it. How does that fit in?
Kino, yeah. Physical touch. It's advised pretty early on, actually, but in small, natural ways. It shouldn't be a big, awkward move. It's presented as a natural flow, a light touch on the arm to make a point, guiding her slightly through a crowd. Small, seamless moments. The real goal here is building compliance momentum. It's like you're conditioning her to be comfortable with your touch and presence by getting her to agree to tiny physical interactions or requests, little hoops, as the text calls them.
Hoops? Like asking her to hold your drink?
Exactly. Small things like that. Hold my drink for a sec. Can you pass me that napkin? Each little yes supposedly builds psychological momentum, making bigger requests later feel less abrupt. The method fully expects some token resistance. It claims women are culturally programmed to give token resistance to physical escalation, so they don't feel promiscuous. So the advice isn't necessarily to stop dead if she pulls back slightly, but maybe to make the touch brief, like a quick stroke on the arm, and then it's gone. Make it seem casual, no big deal.
Okay, so you've supposedly built attraction. Now, the crucial next phase, building comfort. What's the main goal here, and how does that 7-hour rule fit in again?
Right, the comfort phase. This often involves changing locations, moving to quieter, more intimate settings, what the method calls C1, C2, C3 locations. The whole point is to make her feel totally familiar and comfortable with you, like she's known you for a while. And that 7-hour rule is the estimated cumulative time needed for this comfort level to develop. It's not about one long date necessarily, but the total hours spent interacting, building that rapport, that shared space, having lengthy conversations.
So what are the techniques for actually building that comfort? Is it just talking?
Well, yeah, being talkative is key, but not in a way that's obviously trying to impress. It's more about naturally showing your personality through humor, sharing opinions, sharing passion about things. You keep using those techniques like multiple conversational threads and cutting boring threads to lead the interaction and keep it engaging. But other things become more important now too. Creating commonality, finding genuine shared interests or values, fostering a sense of conspiracy, maybe through inside jokes, sharing little secrets. The text mentions games like the Murder-Marry-Shag Gambit as a way to build this playful intimacy, and, crucially, showing vulnerability. This is a big one in the comfort stage. The advice is to actually share some insecurities, personal stories, before anything sexual happens. It's meant to build a deeper emotional connection and trust.
Interesting. Is there also the kind of calibration dynamic here too, like managing how she reacts? You mentioned punishment or reward.
Yeah, that comes up in comfort building too. If she busts on you, acts negative, maybe makes fun of you disrespectfully, the advice is a freeze out. You withdraw attention briefly. Don't sulk. Just turn away, check your phone, get yourself a drink, talk to someone else for a minute. It's framed as a subtle punishment, teaching her that positive behavior gets warmth and attention, negative behavior doesn't.
And these more advanced ideas like jealousy, plot lines, and grounding, how do they play into comfort?
They're seen as ways to deepen the connection or increase perceived value during the comfort phase. Jealousy is called a very powerful motivator. One tactic mentioned is using a pawn, maybe another woman you know or have dated, to subtly make the target jealous, supposedly increasing your desirability. Grounding is about providing context, a backstory to your current reality. You tell stories that reveal your background, your journey, your values. This makes your identity more relatable, allows her to empathize, and solidifies that feeling of really knowing you.
Okay, so you're building all this comfort, potentially across different locations. How does the method suggest actually moving the interaction physically? From the bar to somewhere else, eventually towards a sex location. It sounds very logistical.
It is quite logistical. The method details specific types of location changes. There's the move, just changing spots within the same venue, maybe from the bar to a quieter table. Then there's the bounce, leaving the first venue to go to a different one together on the same night. And the time bridge, that's when you exchange contact info to meet up later, bridging the interaction across time. The constant theme is that you should always be leading these transitions, but making them feel natural and spontaneous to her, creating structured opportunities for her to essentially follow your lead. So, dating routines are often designed with multiple venue changes built in, keeping that 7 hours in mind, and strategically guiding the interaction towards your place eventually. Like, a date might involve meeting for a quick drink near your place, briefly stopping at your place for something simple before going out for dinner, then maybe to a concert, and then naturally suggesting heading back to your place afterwards because it's familiar by then. It lowers the barrier.
Right, making your place familiar beforehand. Okay, and then finally, crossing that point of no return into S1, the seduction phase, what are the big warnings there?
S1 is basically foreplay. The huge warning is about triggering her anti-slut defense, her internal mechanism to not feel promiscuous or causing buyer's remorse later. This happens, according to the text, if you haven't built nearly enough comfort first. It also mentions last-minute resistance, that even if everything's gone well, she might still hesitate right at the end, similar perhaps to how men feel approach anxiety. The advice here is pretty bold. If you're in doubt about whether she's ready, the default should be to attempt escalation gently to calibrate. Don't just assume hesitation means a definite no at this final stage, but rather test the waters.
Okay, wow. So that's a lot to take in. We've gone through this deep dive into the mystery method, looked at its very systematic, almost engineering-like view of social interaction and attraction.
Yeah, it's revealed this really fascinating, definitely controversial framework. It looks at human connection through this specific evolutionary and psychological lens, with clear phases, detailed strategies, even scripts for what to say. What it really highlights within its own logic is the importance of understanding those underlying motivations, perceived value, S and R value, and how those play out in social dynamics.
It's certainly a very structured way to think about connecting with people. Whether you agree with the philosophy or not, it definitely forces you to consider what signals you might be sending out unconsciously and how others might be perceiving value.
Absolutely. And that really brings us to the question for you, the listener. How do these incredibly strategic, almost mechanistic ideas about attraction stack up against your own understanding of, genuine connections, spontaneous relationships? Are there any aspects of this mystery method, even the controversial bits, that maybe offer a surprising new perspective on how we interact? And maybe more importantly, where do you think the real limitations of this kind of approach lie when you apply it to the messy, complex reality of human relationships?